Questions?
Chairman Aguilar, Adrian Diaz with CBS News. Should the discovery of President Biden's classified documents been disclosed before the midterms?
Well, let's step back and talk about this for a minute because, and I appreciate the question. This is Republican hypocrisy at its finest. When the former president had 320 documents found at his personal residence, they said that, quote, that will not be a priority. What President Biden did was disclose this to the archives, let law enforcement know. That is exactly the way that you should handle this. So we're going to support the fact that the president is following this established protocol, that he did the right thing, and see what other and see where we go from here. But we're not interested. Republicans aren't interested in having meaningful oversight. They're just interested in opposing this president.
What do you say to? I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
What do you say to critics who argue these documents were discovered November 2nd, midterms were November 8th, and they could have been withheld to avoid potential damage against Democrats before the midterms?
This was done in consultation. You saw Merrick Garland have a U.S. attorney weigh in at this point. This is being done the exact way, getting the archives involved. Someone who was on the January 6th committee, there is a process to handling documents. The president is handling it the way he should. That's what's important. Go ahead.
To follow up on that, though, I mean, in April we knew about in August we knew about the search warrant executed at Mar-a-Lago. Isn't that sort of a time when everybody goes, let's just make sure we don't have any of our own? Isn't this a little bit sloppy to not have this go through things on the Democrat side to make sure that when they're saying this is terrible, he has documents, let's also make sure that we don't have any documents?
I don't think that's a question for me. That might be a question directed down the street. But what I'll tell you is this is being done. This is being handled the way he should. This is not about August. This is about today. Where we are at. The president is handling this the way that he should. He's disclosing it. He's letting the archives know. Law enforcement is aware. We're handling this with the seriousness at which it deserves. But we're not downplaying this, which is exactly what House Republicans have done. Did you have something, Richard?
No, just to say the Justice Department has the issue.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about House tactics? Obviously, you're pleased and yesterday, but Republicans have tried to vet the committee with various officials. Obviously, George Santos is now a member of Congress. You guys talked about, obviously limited things you could do before he was seated, but now he's a member of Congress. What are your plans?
I'm going to yield to Vice Chair Liu, who talked about the Republican rules package in the Office of Congressional Ethics. Kevin McCarthy owns George Santos. Lock, stock, and barrel. If George Santos wasn't seated, what would the math have been for Speaker McCarthy? He would have had to flip another vote or get two people to vote present. I mean, this is he owns George Santos. That's the only reason why he was seated, is to give George Santos that ability to vote for Kevin McCarthy. So let's call this exactly what it is. There should be repercussions. The state and federal governments and the law enforcement agencies should look into it. The FEC should look into this. I know that there might be an ethics complaint that's filed here as well, but this is an incredibly serious issue from someone who clearly is divorced from reality and sanity. But this is at the feet of Kevin McCarthy, not just George Santos alone. Vice Chair Liu.
Thank you, Chairman Aguilar. So the Republican rules package says that you cannot hire any staff to the Office of Government Ethics after 30 days. Why would they do that? You should ask them, what is the rationale for doing that? Well, the rationale is to shrink this office, because if anyone leaves after 30 days, they don't get replaced. And eventually, there's going to be no one in that office, because they don't want the office investigating people like George Santos. And as Chairman Aguilar noted, arguably George Santos was the deciding vote for Kevin McCarthy for Speaker. It was also disclosed yesterday that when George Santos was fundraising, apparently his fundraising person was telling folks that he was actually Kevin McCarthy's chief of staff. So if they were using the telephones, which I assume they were, that would essentially be conspiracy to commit wire fraud. So what George Santos did was not only unethical, it appears to be highly illegal. And you have ethical investigations, but also you have what looks to me like criminal liability. I think Speaker McCarthy needs to talk about what he thinks about George Santos and really put him up for condemnation or an expulsion vote from this Congress.
Just one last point on that. If George Santos wasn't seated, I might be giving another nominating speech. And so, we could still be going at this. Garrett and then Leanne.
Nobody wants that.
Absolutely. 9. You didn't like anything with one of the 9? Come on.
Good. These are populating committees this week. Speaker McCarthy's reiterated his desire to not seat Adam Schiff or Eric Swalwell on the Select Committee on Intel, should their names be put forward. Is it the caucus's intention to put their names forward to be seated on that committee? And what happens if Speaker McCarthy follows through on that thread and strikes them from the Intel Committee?
That's a steering for Leader Jeffries as well as a steering and policy committee. So steering and policy will meet once we have the ratios in negotiation with the majority. We'll have those ratios. We will